G'day guys, and welcome back to the Iron Empire. On this week's episode of
Just the Tip,
I'm going to show you all how to fix plastic. I'm sure you don't need tips on how to glue plastic. Everyone knows how to do that. But in particular, when you've actually got plastic that's broken and missing. So I've got this grill here for my F100. And as you'll see here, there's plastic actually missing. I've previously glued it up where the crack was, and I didn't do a very good job of aligning that, so I'm gonna have to fix that. But of course there's a missing piece. Now usually, I would have added to this with some other plastic and a soldering iron because I'm a backyarder. Otherwise you could use an actual proper plastic welding tool. But I found this new product. So it's a bit of a product plug, but then there's also an alternative. Now the product plug I'm going to give you here is Pratley Powder Bond. Now this is a product that you can get most auto stores, and in the kit comes glue and two different colors of powder. So in this kit here, which is old now, I've actually used the glue and thrown that away. So I've got a black powder here and obviously a white. Now the black's actually really handy for things like fan shrouds and things like that. So I've actually added the glue and the black. By the time you sand it, you almost can't tell. But most of the stuff that I repair and then re-break, which I just broke then, idiot, requires painting anyway. So I think that the colors are kind of a little bit obsolete. I'm going to quickly glue this panel back together, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you what I intended on showing you all. All right, so I've got this grill all taped back in place. The good trick with this glue and powder trick is that also it speeds up the process of just waiting for the glue to set. By adding the powder, it makes it set almost instantaneously. Which leads me to my second tip, as in the alternative here. Now, Powder Bond, good product, highly recommend it. But the cheaper alternative, because I think that's about 20 bucks a kit, works well, can't knock it. But the very cheap alternative, which you'd probably have in your cupboard, is good old fashioned bicarb soda. This is your basic bicarb, nothing fancy about it. And it's pretty much just a powder. I don't know what's in it. I'm not a scientist or a doctor. The glue that I use is Loctite. This is probably not the best option. Usually this is a bit thick. The best option that I would suggest would be like a Loctite 406, I think it's called. But anything that's quite a runny glue, sort of a super glue style thing, it tends to be a lot runnier, and it sort of runs in throughout all the powder and locks it up real quickly. So I'm going to show you how to do this with the Powder Bond, and I'll show you with the bicarb. It's pretty much the exact same method, but we'll get stuck into it and show you how it's done. It's pretty much just a powder with a spout, and you simply pour it into the gap that you want to fill, which I'll show you all now. And then simply add some glue. Now you can sort of manipulate the powder to sort of go where you want it to, but don't get too carried away with trying to make it fill the entire thing in one hit, because you'll find that it works better if you sort of build it up in a couple of layers and make sure that the glue gets right throughout all the powder. All right, well, I've done about 2 or 3 layers on the back side on each section of that cracked plastic, just to build up the layers. And now I've unmasked, and to show you the other side now what I've created here, and you'll find there's probably a few little divots here there. So now that the bulk of the shape's there and it's all locked in place, now you can just go to the other side, sprinkle a bit on this side, and then get that all filled. All right, well, that's more or less done. The good thing about this as well is that by the time you sand this all out and get your shape right, you can pretty much use some plastic primer and paint straight over. You don't need to add any other fillers, and yeah, it's pretty workable. Now, it might look like a bit of a process, but realistically, if I wasn't recording, that would have taken me, a couple of minutes to fix that crack. There's a lot more to do on this, but you can easily save a lot of these old parts, whereas a lot of people be looking for repo stuff, and especially with the bicarb, it is a really cheap option. So that pretty much does it for this episode of
Just the tip.